Welcome to this class about maintaining a sketchbook. I am so excited that you're here and you're wanting to learn how to keep your images for yourself in a beautiful book and learn to grow, see your growth with drawing in it. You can bring the materials that you rather want to work with. It could be pen and ink, it could be watercolor, it could be a combination of the both. It could be colored pencils, it could be just plain pencil. Graphite pencil is great. My name is Jacobina Ulla and I received my education from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in The Hague in the Netherlands. And I'm very excited that you're here and wanting to grow in your art form that suits you the best. I hope to see you in class soon. This is a pen and ink drawing with black watercolor. There's many different ways that you can fill your sketchbook. I use colored pencils, water-soluble colored pencils, and pen and ink, a micron, and black watercolor. You can do whatever you want. Gouache is great too. So let's look at how I start, and I'm going to fast forward with my drawing. I'm not drawing this fast, but it's just for the sake of you not watching the video, but also starting your own drawing. I have different pencils. There's an HB pencil, what I always start with. And when I go further into the drawing, I use very often a 2B. On the top of my pencil is a little eraser, and here I am correcting quite a bit of what I see as soon as I realize that the negative shapes are not necessarily where they need to be. You can practice seeing endlessly. I don't think I will ever be done with drawing that way. I take the challenges that are more and more complicated, but when you just start out, you take simple shapes and try to make sense of them. After I have put everything very lightly in pencil, I use my micron pen. All these things are very small to carry, and I can walk without heavy backpacks or whatever, and then as soon as I see a scene that I would like to draw, I will sit down and just do it. Now this is in the botanical gardens of Amsterdam in a very early morning on a Sunday. And what I like about this is that there's a lot of plants and there is architecture. I try to do both at all times because that creates interesting shapes. So there's a lot of geometrical forms like windows and paths, but there's also a lot of organic forms that are a lot harder to define. And by seeing both at the same time, I see also the negative shapes. I work a lot with negative shapes. And you can learn how to do that too. If you don't know how to do that, please take my basic drawing course, and in which I use the viewfinder. But if you think that you already know it all, then do that. Just learn how to put all the separate items together and create some depth. And if you're just starting out, just take a simple item like a flower pot and take only that and draw only that. But I would suggest you also make a suggestion of your surroundings. And by doing that, you create the whole picture. But very vague. You don't have to, if you want to practice it a little bit more before you start out a complicated drawing, then you can focus on one simple item and do that. I love pen and ink. I have been doing that basically all my life. And I draw the outline first, roughly, and then I still can correct it. It's very thin. So if I see that I made a mistake or I'm getting into trouble later, then I will correct it. Now, the thing about pen and ink is that in order to make a value, like a shadow or a darker part, you have to do the hatching and the cross hatching. And if you don't know what that is, please ask me, because there are exercises that will tell you how to do it. It's basically one line next to another in a rhythm that is not very expressive. It is kind of boring, and because it is, it makes a value instead of lines. That's all what I'm doing here. I go a different direction with the lines, and that means that that's called hatching and cross hatching. And I get darker and darker the more I add to it in a different direction. All the artists of the past learn how to do this, although you might not see it in their drawings because they do it so fast or so rough that you might not recognize it. But it's a way of making dark values, even though it is a tree and it has organic lines, not like architecture. The hatching and the cross hatching will make it easier to create depth. And that's all what we want. Now, another thing to remember is that you have your highest contrast in the front. So the biggest change of black and white, pure black and pure white, is in front. And when you do that, your eye will be drawn to that. And then in the back, it's all more vague, more subdued, more dreamlike. And if you do that consistently, you will see that your drawings will get a lot of depth. Shading is part of that. So the contrast should not be in the back, the biggest contrast. Always remember that. It's a big thing. It might not be one of the first things on your mind when you're just starting out, but it's a good thing to always remember that that's the way it goes. You see how I'm building up my drawing? I'm not necessarily starting with the front. I actually think I'm working methodically from left to right so that I'm not smearing my whole drawing. Although the Micron is permanent ink and it doesn't smear, I think I made my system like that, always. Now there's a big sun, a strong wave of sun that will disappear, will change. So I take one moment in time to put down the rays of the sun and the shadows. Remember that it always changes. You cannot go back to it and then change your drawing. The sun will change, but you keep it as you saw it at one point in time. That's another thing to remember when you're drawing outside, that the sun, the elements, will play a big part in your comfort, in your difficulty. It's difficult to draw outside or to paint outside for that matter. It's not only the sun, it's also the wind, the cold air, or too warm, whatever it is. It's not regulated, the temperature. So you will be more exposed to the elements than when you are inside. that makes for interesting drawings as well, because you might be a little bit less stiff. You might be more loose in your drawings because of this difficulty. Practice this as much as you can and find the fun in it. I find it very, very rewarding, and I hope you do too. I hope to see you in my life class soon.